Chair Sanchez, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. Really appreciate it.
So with the frustration from the oil industry saying that the cap and invest proposal is too much, but then environmental groups saying that it's not doing enough. I mean, between now and the possible vote in May, could there be changes to this?
It's a great question, Ashley, and I think it's really important to remember that we're in the middle of a regulatory process. As you referenced, staff put out a draft proposal in January, and we've received public comment. It just wrapped up this past week, and we're now working through all of the feedback and the public comment. My staff is meeting with yes, members of the oil industry and those environmental groups, but also utilities, food processors, you name it, regulated entities and communities across the state to better understand how this proposal may affect them. And we have built in enough time for changes should those be deemed necessary before bringing this proposal to the board in May. But one thing I want to underscore, Ashley, is the staff's proposal that was made public in January was really responsive to legislative direction from the bills that were passed last year. And we like to emphasize the balance that was struck between affordability and ambition. And a lot of the feedback we're getting, as you pointed out, is we either went too far on ambition or we're not thinking enough about affordability. We need to go further, faster. So we're really looking forward to continuing to engage with stakeholders on their feedback and any changes that they're requesting.
The state's remaining oil refiners are sounding the alarm on the proposal just as is. Chevron is calling the state's oil and gas situation a state of emergency that could collapse the industry because of the added cost, because of the proposal as is. I mean, our state leaders have a history of ignoring these warnings, but we did see 2 refiners now shut down within a matter of 6 months. I mean, will CARB be hearing them on this as maybe a change from what we've seen in years past?
So we've met with members of the refining industry. I myself have been meeting with the refiners, again, to understand how the proposal would affect them. And, I think it's really important that, again, that that direction that was given to CARB included an aspect of minimizing leakage, which means making sure that California businesses stay here in California. That is why the staff proposal is really status quo for the industrial sector. We did not change the allowance allocation for industry, including refiners. That said, we understand that given market challenges, market changes, just look at what's happened in the past week, our refiners are asking for more support from this program, and that's a conversation that we look forward to continuing to have with them. I would also point out the administration has made it a goal to ensure that we have a managed transition and that we're able to ensure fuel supply here in California remains reliable and affordable. If you look at some legislation that was passed last year, that was really done in collaboration with all stakeholders, but especially the refiners. And we look forward again to continuing those conversations.
On reliability and affordability, the oil industry has said this proposal essentially incentivizes companies to import even more fuel from other countries. I mean, something the state is already heavily relying on now. I mean, is that not concerning to you, given the war in Iran and the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz at this point?
Yeah, I again would emphasize that the staff proposal is really focused on supporting businesses here in California. That's why we didn't change that industrial allocation. And we've maintained a number of the cost containment measures in the program design. Ashley, I should point out, as the legislature was having the conversation about how to extend this program last year, it was supported by the industry, the business industry here in California, and by labor voices in California, environmental organizations in California. This program has a 15-year track record of success. It is one of our most cost-effective climate policies. And as we think about the benefits that it has generated for the state, I mean, over $34 billion in investments up and down the state, affordable housing, accessible transit, forest management and fire prevention, safe and affordable drinking water. I mean, these investments have been transformative for communities. You layer on top of that the program has generated $15 billion in utility bill rebates. And yes, gas prices are a top concern for Californians, as are utility bills. So the fact that this program is helping on energy affordability is also very paramount. All of that said, we understand we are getting feedback that the staff proposal does not go far enough to really ensure that we are supporting those California businesses. We look forward to the data and the justification on that issue.
But I guess to clarify, if the war in Iran persists, will that change the course of this proposal?
The war in Iran and, the latest federal lawsuits attacking California. I mean, there are a number of global events, federal events that we are taking into consideration as a part of this process and this regulation that is coming to the Air Board. Again, it's not coming to the board until the end of May, so we've built in time for some of these really important conversations and analysis to continue.
But just overall, broadly on this, I mean, as the leader of the person of the group that's tasked with cleaning California's air, meeting the environmental goals, I mean, what good are these goals if the state is so heavily relying on fuel that's produced in other countries and then put onto ships to pollute the air, not necessarily in our state, but outside of it?
Yeah, it's something that, we give a lot of thought to through both the Cap and Invest program and the low carbon fuel standard. And it's why, again, that legislative direction to minimize leakage is really important to the work CARB does. More broadly, making sure that the benefits of our regulations and our policies and our programs outweigh any costs. But Ashley, as you pointed out, tasked with cleaning the air, 18 million Californians still breathe unhealthy air every year. If you look at the weather forecast for next week, you're forecast to hit 90 degrees in Sacramento for the first time in March. That is unprecedented. We know that the legislature over bipartisan administrations has tasked the Air Board with moving forward and striking the right balance between costs and benefits and supporting California businesses going forward.
You mentioned, and you've been mentioning, that your job, you've just taken from the legislature. Essentially, you were directed by state lawmakers to carry out this rulemaking process when it comes to Cap and Invest. Several Democratic lawmakers who voted for that, who voted to direct you to do this work, are now asking you to go back to the drawing board essentially on this proposal when it comes to energy. What's your reaction to that?
I take that feedback with deep humility and deep gratitude. I'm grateful that the legislature and their engagement doesn't stop at just passing the bill and the governor signing it, but rather throughout the implementation process and the regulatory process that they're staying engaged. We want to make sure that ultimately the proposal that comes to the board is responsive to legislative direction and really how they intended the program to work. So, I've seen that letter. I've received a number of other letters on other sets of issues. And we're, the whole team is looking at that feedback and again, thinking about how the proposal moves forward.
I know you mentioned the benefits of Cap and Invest over the next 20 years. I know CARB has analyzed the health savings, electricity bill savings, but for years now, lawmakers in both political parties have been urging you to be more upfront with the direct costs to consumers, especially when it comes to gas prices. I mean, will you do that? I mean, do you plan to explain to people once this proposal maybe is finalized, how that will directly impact them at the pump?
Yeah, gas prices from this program and the pass through from oil companies to consumers are reported on the website of the California Energy Commission. You can go look today. It is 24 cents per gallon. But again, that cost to consumers and gas prices has already come back to Californians in the form of all of those benefits that I explained earlier, whether it's the investments in affordable housing and accessible transit, incentives for clean cars and trucks, for farming equipment, energy home rebates, and those utility bill credits. And again, if you look at the staff proposal, I actually would like to emphasize as well that the scenario staff put forward is $20 billion less costly than scenarios that were analyzed in April of 2024 when we started this rulemaking. That is our board and our staff really being responsive to, concerns about costs of our regulations. So we're moving forward with the least costly scenario that we move forward, and we'll continue to emphasize the benefits of this program. In addition to the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and those utility bill rebates, it's $123 billion in avoided health costs for Californians. Obviously, the costs of health costs, insurance costs, top of mind as well.
All right, Chair Sanchez, before we let you go, I mean, we should acknowledge you're new in this role. I mean, how has it been? I mean, has it been a challenging beginning to this new role?
Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that question. Again, deep humility, deep gratitude that, the governor has entrusted me in this role. And I have two mentors, my predecessors who had this role before me, and a phenomenal team, an engaged legislature, and really looking forward to continuing to build partnerships with stakeholders of all stripes. I've been telling my team one of our mantras is a big tent. We know that it is going to take all of us to tackle climate change and tackle air pollution and do it in a way that is really mindful of affordability. So we look forward to the ongoing work at the board this year.
All right, Chair Sanchez, thank you so much for your time and insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ashley. You take care.